Alright, so let's take a look at another problem. So, once again, our strategy here is to come up with the least common denominator so that eventually we can just get rid of all the denominators. So let's take a look at what we've got here. In this case, our least common denominator, this one has a factor of m, this one has two factors of m times m, and this one has no denominator at all, or it's invisible, a denominator of 1. So our least common denominator here is just going to be, the most we need is two factors of m. So m squared is our LCD. So how do we get all of these to have the same denominator? Well, let's take a look. Here we've got m. It just needs a second factor of m to go with it. So we'll get 5m over m squared equals. Now this one already has the denominator we need, so there's nothing we need to do there except recopy it. And then 2, or 2 over 1, we need m squared there, so I'm going to multiply the bottom by m squared, and I'm going to multiply the top by m squared. So I get 2m squared over m squared. Now, once again, what we're allowed to do here, since they all have the same denominator, they're all being divided by m squared, I'm just going to simply multiply both sides of the equation by m squared. So essentially, all the denominators vanish, and my equation becomes 5m equals 2 plus 2m squared. And now I want to solve for m. Now, the reason why I chose this problem is because, unlike the first example, this one I can't just undo and solve straightforward, because the giveaway is this m squared. Anytime we're dealing with m squared and not just m, we need to be thinking factoring and not just undoing the problem. So with factoring, it's all about setting one side equal to 0, which I'm going to do this side. There's less stuff over here. And I get 0 equals. And then I'm going to put this all in standard form. I'm going to put the 2m squared first, minus 5m, plus 2. And now I can solve by factoring. And if I go through all the different process, or the factoring checklist, I think what I can do here is I can use FOIL or generic rectangle to factor this. 2m squared must have been 2m times m. 2 is probably 2 times 1, except with this negative sign here, I'm thinking this was negative 2 times negative 1, because if you look at the inner and the outer here, I've got negative 1m and negative 4m, which makes negative 5m. So now I can solve by factoring. I factored it out, and I can say, okay, for this to equal 0 must mean that I need this part of the problem to turn into a 0. 2m minus 1 needs to be a 0, or m minus 2 needs to be a 0. And when I solve these, add 1 to both sides, divide by 2, I get m as 1/2, or add 2 to both sides, I get m equals 2. So I get two answers for this particular problem. M can either equal 2 or m can equal 1/2. So a slightly different problem. The initial strategy is still the same. Come up with the least common denominator so that you can make all the denominators the same, which essentially makes them disappear only for equations. Don't mix this up with the last lesson we did on adding and subtracting. These are similar but different. In this case, the only difference here is instead of solving by just undoing the problem, we had to solve by factoring.